kind of fades in and fades out now. So, well, hey, it's fantastic to be with you this evening. It was a blessing to be with you this morning. And I don't know, this seems like a large number for Sunday night, so thank you all for coming back. I have some friends from Wharton Heights, I believe, Bob and his beautiful bride, and then I think, was it Dennis? Was that Jim? Visiting with us. And so I didn't, this is my first trip up to this area, and knowing that I went from Pennsylvania to West Virginia to Ohio to, I didn't know which state I was in most of the time, but it has been fantastic. And so thank you for your hospitality and your kindness. That has been a blessing. You took me to a buffet today, which is always bad to do. I won't have to eat for about 3 days now, but it was good food. And so, well, tonight I'm going to introduce you to the work that the Lord is doing in around the world in the 1040 window. As tonight, as we dig in, some of you may know something or a little bit about what we do, but tonight I'm hoping to give you a little more in-depth and a little more knowledge about it, and really to explain to you why this work is not just for me and the team that we work with, but it's also for you. It's an opportunity for you to partnership, like we talked about, making disciples. And so that's something I'm wanting to share with you this evening. And so, as always, as I mentioned this morning, transparency and candidness, so you can't judge me if you think, man, that was a bad mistake he made, okay? You just have to realize as Jesus told Paul, his grace is sufficient for him. So I'll leave you with that as we get started. How many of you, let me back up here, I got a little ahead of myself there. How many of you have ever made a smart aleck comment? Anyone? Okay. Betty, I can't imagine Betty making a smart aleck comment. That would never have crossed my mind. I've known her for 24 hours. But how many of you have ever made a smart aleck comment to God? Wow, that just left me. The hands dropped real quick. I was working for a company, and we were having a meeting in Irvine, California, and flew out there. And I came into the meeting, and they were talking about getting their shots and all these things and these pills, and just I said, well, where are you going? What are you doing that for? And they said, well, we're going to do a due diligence meeting in India. And I said, why would you want to go to that godforsaken country? I said, there's nothing there but, cows and Hindu worshipers and everything else. And they said, well, we got to do this due diligence meeting. I said, can't you do a video call or something like that? And I was young and full of vim and vigor. But the Lord heard my comment. And you're going to see what happens when the Lord hears comments. Sometimes it can change your life. And so a few months went by, and I was at church one Sunday, and we were talking about the parable of the talents, and I thought, what can I do with my talent? I've been an investment advisor, and I've been involved with money and things like that. I thought there's ought to be something more I could do working with working for the Lord, because I love Him and I want my talents to flourish for His benefit. And a few weeks went by, and we had a Sunday night guest speaker that was a missionary. And guess where he's from?
India.
India. Good guess. You guys are bright. I tell you what. He was from India. So he spoke, and I thought, man, I like this guy. He's got a multifaceted. He's doing a Bible college, an orphanage, and widows, and water wells. And I really connected with Dr. Paul Reganathan. And so I went up afterwards, and I had a big, nice check. I was probably overly proud of myself that I was given this big check. And so I said, hey, Dr. Reganathan, and I loved hearing what you had to say. I wanted to give you some money. And he takes the check, opens it, and closes it. And he hands it back to me, and he says, hey, why, instead of giving this to me now, why don't you come to India? And I thought, oh, you're crazy. I said, well, why don't you take the check now, and then we can talk about coming to India. So I was kind of putting it off. He said, no, I want you to come to India. He said, I think you need to be there. And he said, you hold on to that check. So I was pretty perplexed coming out of that meeting. And then he continued to email me for the next few months. Doug, we need you in India. Doug, come visit us. Oh, I'm thinking, you don't need me in India. You got 1.4 billion people. You don't need another mouth to feed. And so, long story short, in January of '09, I crawled on an airplane, and I headed to Frankfurt, Germany, and then on to Chennai, India. And I landed kind of like I'm dressed now, missing the tie. I always wear slacks and dress shoes and sport coat and everything. And I crawled off that plane at midnight, and two thoughts hit me. One, I was way overdressed. And number two, I was breathing liquid oxygen. I didn't know if this was umbilical fluid I was breathing or what, but it was like swimming through the most humid place I'd ever been in my life. And so we're talking at midnight, it's still 90-some degrees and about 100 and felt like 110, but 100% humidity, but there was no rain. It was just wet. And the other thing that hit me coming off that plane was the smell. I don't know if any of you have ever been to India. If you've ever been to India, you won't forget it. And came off the plane, it was kind of a combination of sewage, because they had open sewers, and spices and cooking and body odor all rolled into one aroma. And I thought, wow, this is bad. And but I put my smile on and came out, and Paul was there to greet me, and along with another million Indians waiting to greet somebody at the airport. And Paul identified me because I thought, I don't hope I can recognize him. I've seen him once, But easy to pick me out of the crowd. And so they picked me up and took me to my hotel. And the next morning I got up and I preached at 3 or 4 different congregations that morning. Started about 7 a.m., finished about 1. Their lunchtime there is more like 1:30. And but long story short, again, I fell in love. I fell in love with the people and the culture and the food. And even today, when they open that airplane door and I'm in India, I think, I'm home. This is it. This is what it's all about right here, saving souls. And so, it's things like that really motivated me, the love of the people and the lack of Jesus. And from that point on, I came back and I started Send the Light, our nonprofit, and we've raised money. I've gone over 3 to 5 times a year for the last 12 years. And last year, I got an email from a Bible translation company wanting to know if they're looking for some help in their South Pacific. And I thought, it seems like the Lord's really been laying on my heart to, hey, take the step in faith and go be a missionary and do this full time. And so I got the call, kind of like the phone ringing, and so I said, you know what, I think this is something I ought to do. And we talked a little more, and they said, you know what, you'd be perfect for our India operations of Bible translation. I said, well, I knew that was coming because everything has led me to that part of the world. And so I realized this is something that I needed to step off and do full time. And so this year we did. We said, Lord, I'm not going to worry about retirement plans. Or I'm not going to worry about health insurance or things like that. I'm going to trust in you, Father. And that's probably one of the biggest faith steps I've ever taken. And so that has brought us to where we're at today. And establishing the work, we realized, hey, what areas do we want to cover? Where is some place that we can really get the gospel spread besides just India? If we're over there, let's go for maximizing everything we can. And so this is the 1040 window. I talked to you this morning. A lot of people aren't aware of it. It's just a phrase that they use to identify a part of the world. There's nothing magical about it. But it's the 10th parallel north of the equator to the 40th parallel north of the equator. It stretches from West Africa to Japan. Okay? Now this is the amazing thing. Inside that little window, that little box, is 2/3 of the world's population. That's 4.4 billion with a B people inside that. 85% of the poorest of the world's people live there. 90% are unevangelized. And then the big number is of all denominations, no matter what their affiliation with, only 10% of the global missionary force goes to this part of the world. Because Northern Africa and that Middle East there you see is Muslim, and the Hindus are in India, and the Buddhists in China, and every other religion mixed in. And it's not really a seasonable place to go. It's humid majority of the time. It's hot, and you sweat a lot. And I'm real good at that. Spiritual gift is sweating for me. But it's a tough place to be, and it's a tough place to work, but it's a place where they've never heard about Jesus. And so the opportunity is huge. The fields are definitely ripe for harvest. And that is something that I think about every day. How we have to work harder and faster to get the gospel into these hands of these people because they need it. They don't have a hope like we do of God, and their world conditions are even more miserable. And so that is the area that we work in and that we spend our time and our effort and our energy. One of the things in the past 12 years that I've learned working in India is that it's a population that has extreme adverse living conditions. It's very difficult. I don't know what you think the greatest invention is, but for me it's the ceiling fan or any kind of fan, because when you're in India, that's all you got when you're out. When it's 100 and some degrees and humidity, it's the blessing of the ceiling fan that moves the air. And soon as they have this thing called load sharing or power sharing, that means they turn your power off, in essence, 2 hours a day or so. And if you're ever out in one of those buildings and you hear that, and everything gets quiet, and there's no air moving. And it's like your body immediately reacts and just sweat bubbles all over. I mean, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm thinking I'm going to faint here. This is bad. And my sermons usually get really short at that point because, they're just a fan, And I carry this piece of cardboard. It was the back of a notepad. I carry it with me so I can whip it out and get a little air from now and then. But, they have adverse living conditions. Is one of their biggest issues over there. It's overcrowding, lack of ventilation, inadequate sanitation, and the water supply. That's like 85% of childhood illnesses come from the water supply. Childhood diseases come from the water supply being bad. Some things you'll know about India that maybe you didn't know. You always use your right hand. You shake with your right hand. You hand money with your right hand, because your left hand is used for something else, and it involves a bathroom. And in India, there's the Western toilets where you sit like we do. In India, they have more of they're called a squatty potty. It's an oval shape in the ground, and you straddle it, and you squat. And you got a bucket of water or sprayer in your left hand, and that's how you clean yourself. And so I've learned real quick to watch, use my right hand or whatever. So sanitation, as you can see, is a problem. Children that grow up typically have to deal with starvation, abuse. They have to help provide for family needs. And the most difficult item that we've seen and dealt with is at times families will sell typically their daughters into sex trafficking to have some money to feed the rest of the family. And that's heartbreaking. I couldn't imagine selling my daughter or my child at all, period. And for them, sometimes it's a reality, and they don't have a choice. And so those are the things that they're dealing with, that they struggle with, every day. There's two important things that I realized is that they don't know Jesus. Sometimes they'll say, we go to a little village, and I'll say, hey, you know Jesus? You know who Jesus Christ is? And the translator will ask him, and he'll answer back, does he live down the street? Well, he kind of lives down the street. He kind of lives right here too, They just don't know who he is. They don't have that. We hear it every day. For them, it's foreign, especially the farther in the jungles that we go, in the village areas and those places. And the second thing is that the different languages. There's over 120 different languages in India alone. Virtually every state has their own language. So, I think you call this the tri-state area. If not, I just made that up, and so it's an excellent phrase if you want to use it. So in the tri-state area here, you'd have Ohio would speak a language, West Virginia would speak a language, and Pennsylvania would speak a language. Now, we all joke with each other, and we always say, they speak a different language because they're from West Virginia or from Ohio or whatever. But they literally speak a different language, okay? It would be like Ohio spoke French, West Virginia spoke German, and Pennsylvania spoke English. And so they have all these different languages. And I realized that, that that in America we are blessed to have a lot of Bibles and a lot of translations and things like that. But in other countries, they don't have that. And they don't have it in their native tongue. And I was looking through some of the, I didn't bring my phones up with me, but some of the texts that I get. And Bob, you know what I'm talking about. And Will, you know what I'm talking about from our guys in the Philippines and things like that. So Joel's a guy that communicates with a lot of us. And no, I'm good. I can wing this, I think. He communicates with a lot of us, and he said it would be happy to go there in the Philippines. And he was talking about coming to the church here. And but he said it would be so glad to go there one day in the Philippines. And I thought, I think he doesn't mean, I know what he meant, but it was off. Or introducing myself, I would tell Bob Slike, I would say, Bob, this is Doug, nice to meet you today. Or Day, nice to meet you, And you'd say, Doug, Day, nice to meet you. What's he mean? Oh, he's nice to meet me. But it's not natural. It's English, but it's not natural. And it's difficult to understand. And people to read their Bible trying to read that would be even more difficult. We all look at the King James Version, which was a natural language back in the day. We think that's kind of hard to read today. So those are some of the things that we deal with. And even in Acts chapter 2, the day of Pentecost, if you remember, they could understand in their own language. And they were all excited to hear the wonderful works of God in their own tongue. It makes an impact. It makes a difference. And I realized that, boy, there's a lot of, there's some big issues that are going on. The other piece that, as we get into the believers and those things, is just the ability to hand out Bibles. This here is a picture of our school in Chennai. That's Paul in the white shirt, standing closest to me. And then you have women in the line on one side and men in the line on another side. Okay? And that is, we had this preacher's meeting in 2018, and I was handing out Bibles. That was a gift. Sometimes we do communion trays. Sometimes we do offering plates. Sometimes bicycles. Sometimes, different things that are needed for the preachers or the congregations. This year was the Bibles. And so we were handing out Bibles, and what became interesting as we came through, you'd come up, and I was just to the left here, and we had Hindu and Tamil and Telugu, Malayalam, and English. And so we were handing them out. What do you speak? Telugu? Telugu? Okay, you hand it out, and get them. They go inside for the big preachers meeting. Well, this one couple came up, and I could not, Tamil? No. Telugu? No. English? Definitely not. Malayalam? No. And we ran out. I said, well, what do you got? So the translator kind of stepped in who could speak a little bit. They had a language that they didn't have the Bible in. And I thought, wow, that's a pretty tough deal there. And I said, we have no Bible at all? No Bible at all. I said, okay. And so I tried to explain to them. I said, I'm sorry, we don't have a Bible. And they're holding out their hands, and I'm thinking, we don't have anything. It's a little bit like sign language, Betty. No Bible, we're going back and forth. And finally, you could just see the disappointment, and their heads kind of dropped, and they went on into the meeting, but no Bible. And that was the advertisement. Hey, International Preachers Meeting, be able to pick some Bibles up for your congregation. And so I'm sure they thought maybe someone had translated a Bible for them. And It just didn't happen, and it broke my heart. It was difficult to see that in America we got a ton of translations, we got a ton of different versions that we can read, and here they don't even have one, not even one Bible. So, what's your favorite Bible translation? Is it ESV, NIV, King James? How many use King James? How many use the New King James? How many think there's no other version beside King James? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong question. How many use the NIV? ESV? RSV? USB? No, I made that one up. Just kidding. But see how many versions we have, and we all have the one we like. They don't even have one Bible to read God's Word, to understand what He's really saying to them, for them and about them. And you can baptize people and you can teach them about Jesus through verbal, but boy, they need the Word of God to really grow and develop and experience how God feels about them, what God says to them, and the love. One of the quotes of Nelson Mandela, you can see it up on there, you can speak to someone in a language they understand, and it'll go to their head. But when you speak to someone in a language that's their own, it goes to their heart. Perfect example, I'll be speaking. I'm not bilingual, I'm biphrasal, okay? You're thinking, what's biphrasal? I'm going to tell you, it's real important. That means I know a lot of phrases in a lot of different languages, but I don't know any language. And so when I'm in Tamil, I'll say Kali Vanakkam, and that's good morning. And if I say that, those people in Tamil, they light up, they're excited. Oh my goodness, there's a white guy that can kind of speak our language. And I'll say, Pudi Irakinga, that's how are you doing? And they say, oh, great, good, yeah, because it's in their own language. I can still say hello, and the guy will translate. Casey, huh? That's how are you doing in Hindu, okay? And so anytime you try to speak their language, you've probably traveled places and used different languages, and people, they like that you're even trying. And that's what it's like, and understanding the Word of God in your own language. That's how vital it is. My true vision is to save souls. As I talked to you about this morning, I talked about the need to save souls, the desire to save souls. We're commanded to save souls. And that is, I can't impress upon you how much that we need your help. It's a team effort. It's a partnership. Paul talks about it in Philippians 4. He's thanking them for the partnership that they did by supporting and giving him money to do the work. Jesus lays it out in his whole ministry. He had people support him so he could do the work. Here's the Son of the living God, He could have brought them Chick-fil-A before they knew what Chick-fil-A was. And that may not be big up here, Chick-fil-A. In the South, you got church and Chick-fil-A. It's pretty close, okay? But, Jesus could have provided everything, but instead he wanted people to partner. He wanted people to be included, He wanted people, we use people to prepare meals for them when we do meetings. They get to partner because they're preparing the meal. And some people are providing a tent for us to use for shade. And so everyone used to partner in that gospel. And we have people that will show you that they sacrifice to help get the gospel spread. So we have the Bible translation. We partner with a group called Wycliffe out of Florida. And they've been translating the Bible since 1967. They've been able to, typically Bible translation would take roughly 20 to 30 years. You would have a PhD, go to a country, spend 15 years learning the language to 20, and then try to translate it into a language. He would, but it would never be natural. The people wouldn't like it, and they wouldn't read it because it didn't always make sense. Because even though people know English and have lived here, we've had people speak to us and go, oh, that's a little funny English. Even when I come back from India, Marlis will tell me sometimes, she goes, okay, can you stop the Indian English and get back to real English? Because I'll chop words or sentences or things like that. And so the Bible translation, we partner with them and help getting the Bible translated in India because it's needed. It's huge. I was on a call. This was interesting. I was on a call with a church group. So 30 years, Wycliffe gets it down to you can translate the New Testament in virtually about 2 years. They'll use an 8-step process. And they use members of the language and that are believers, and it comes down to perfect translation. It's pretty phenomenal to see how it goes. But I was on a Zoom call, and this guy, Matthew, he said, Mr. Doug, he says, have you ever been to India? I said, I have. He says, have you ever been to Chennai? And I started thinking, I bet you I know this guy. He looks familiar. And I said, yeah. He goes, World Bible School in Chennai with Dr. Paul Reganathan? I said, yeah, that's where I know you from. He had graduated, 3-year degree program, back started a church, and now they're trying to help translate the Bible into his mother tongue in Nepal. And I thought, oh my goodness, what a blessing to see full circle what the Lord does with his people and how they make an impact. And that he was at the school because people in America sent support that helped pay for the school and helped pay for that. And now the word's being spread all because someone sent some dollars. It made a big impact. The next thing we do is, one of the things I don't know is, it's a little difficult to talk about at times, but it's risky going where we go. I talked to some of the gentlemen tonight. We have a website called sendthelightnow.org. You won't see my picture on it. A couple reasons I told them was, number one, I like to keep my head attached to my body. When we go into Muslim countries and things like that, they're not. They're very curious why you're there in their country, and so they ask a lot of questions, and they try to put two and two together and things like that. And the other part is why I don't have my picture on the site and different pictures is because this work is about glorifying God. It's about you all seeing what the people are doing and how they're making an impact and teaching people about Jesus. It's not about me. It's not about Marlis. It's not about any of us. It's about glorifying God and getting souls to heaven, to let them have the opportunity. I mean, we live a great life in America. And then we're going to go to heaven and live in a more phenomenal eternity. But there's lots of people who have a tough life. And boy, just getting them to heaven, that is so, it's vital. There's no other issue as important as that. It's not climate change. It's not climate control. It's not this or that. It's teaching people about Jesus. You're probably wondering what those rings are. There's 6 rings there. Those all belong to 6 translators that were beheaded when Muslim radicalists realized they were translating the Bible. They chopped their head off. And Bob Chambers, that's not his real name, who helps us in the Muslim area in the Bible translation, he carries those with him, number 1, to remind how serious of work we're doing, and number 2, to remind him to always be aware. And I just found that very interesting, that there's persecution and then there's persecution. And so we have 14 different orphanages, I think, now. This little young lady, she steals my heart. We provide food for them. They get about 45 minutes each day of studying Jesus and learning about God, and then also getting schooling. It's just the traditional type schooling. They can come out there and be able to hold a job or do something. We have our widows that we take care of. The one on the left's receiving. How many of you have ever used a pedal sewing machine? Anyone pedal? Yeah. Well, they make them brand new over there, and we give them away, these pedal, and they have a little top, and there's wheels, and they pull them around, and it's so dense over there of people on top of people. And so someone can make a living, a widow can make a living by sewing clothes, patching clothes, doing things like that. And it's not like in America where, I lost my spouse, I can go get a job, I can go do this or that. That's not their culture. It doesn't work that way. And so the goat here that we're giving away is they milk it, and they can sell the milk and make some money, and that helps them provide other products and food that they need and a little shelter. We were giving a goat away one time, and I saw a lady walking up with a goat. And I thought, uh-oh. I said, Paul, did we give away a defective goat? And she already tested that out, and there's no milk. But Paul knew what was happening. He said, no, we gave her a goat 3 years ago or 4 years ago, and she saved up money and bought, and now she's bringing a goat to give to another widow. And I thought, Lord, forgive me. You really start thinking how selfish you are when you hear these stories, or at least I do, of thinking, man, that's a sacrifice, What do you mean? She's not going to get a TV and get a Netflix subscription? Why not? It just doesn't, that's not what they care about over there. This here's poor needy, the boy on the right there. He's in our Bible college. Our students and our students and our teachers, they'll go out during the times, during the weeks, and give away food to the poor needy. That's a handicap tricycle. You pedal it with your hands. We give those away as we find a need. Our Bible college, we have, like I said, around 70 to 75 students any given time. It's a 3-year program. It is fantastic. Those boys over there, we recently had one of our teachers die from COVID, and it broke my heart. He was always a quiet spirit, just subtle, nice. And Ibria, I think is his name. I never pronounce it right. But Ibrea, and but those boys I get to teach at the college some, and they've seen enough American humor they can pick up on mine, and so the preacher support we have, we give away bicycles to our preachers, work with them on that. This next, water wells, trying to find the clean and healthy water. Dolores and Ed Dickinson are members of the church on our board from Michigan. Paul's in the orange shirt. If you can't tell, I'm in the blue shirt on the left, in case that's confusing. Our water wells, then we have our medical clinic and bus. This is a big impact. The medical clinic's in Chennai, and they don't have medical services like we do with Medicare, Medicaid, all those things. And so we provide that, but we also provide a bus because most of them can't afford to get to the clinic. And so the medical bus will go out and do medical camps in these villages and bring the doctor and get that set up and have a gospel meeting, and people all come. They're interested. This is the biggest vehicle they've seen in their town, and they're wondering what it's about. And the boys from the Bible College will go out and knock on doors. So this is simultaneously. You got people visiting the medical bus. The Bible College boys are knocking on doors, inviting them. And by that evening, we may have 100, 150 people at our gospel meeting in this little village. And when they got the medical, they're coming to learn about Jesus, what's going on, things like that. This here is our private Christian school. I talked a little bit about that. That is quite the structure there. And it is a unique opportunity to reach the middle class. And so what we have done through private donations and Paul securing finance, we have building our fourth in Chennai right now. And a private Christian school is different than a private Christian school here. 85% are Hindu, 12% are Muslim, 2.5% are members of or Christians. That's the makeup of India. In our schools, we have about 90% are all either Hindu or Muslim. And you say, well, why would they send their kids to a Christian school? Because they love education. Education is number one. It's the most important thing in the world. Just like the reason we have a kid that has excelled in football or athletics, and he got a scholarship to Notre Dame, he's going to Notre Dame. And so it's the same thing, though, with academics. And the difference is we get the opportunity to teach them about Jesus for about 45 minutes during the daytime. They start off with Christian songs, and they start off with prayer. Our school has about 3,000 students. It's one of the top 5 in Chennai. Chennai's 10 million people. And so we are trying to reach that middle class and trying to get the Word of God into their hearts. And this is our avenue of doing it. We have a boarding house that I mentioned, our orphanages out in the fields. If their kids are academically qualified and can do it, then we bring them here to school for free. And we've had 2 of our girls come and become nurses. We had 3 little Nepal boys that came. It's a long story, but they came and they're number 1 in their class. And they stay at the boarding house with other students that their parents have sent. And 60% pay full price, and then the 40% are either scholarshiped or free. If they're orphans, they're free to go to the school. And when they graduate from here, they can go to college anywhere in the world. It's accredited. It is an amazing, and it's self-sustaining. It pays for itself. And so that's one of the areas that we're trying to make an impact. Education is vital. Man, you got to give people opportunity, not only to serve God, but to teach others and have that impact, have that influence. And then finally, our disaster relief. We had served food 3 years ago. There was a huge flood in Chennai. It's either feast or famine. It's either so dry we got to haul water in, or we got more water than what we need, as you can see here. And this little boy's up in his waist, and they got a picture of getting him some good curry, rice and curry and food. And so, this seems like a mission specifically for me, as I mentioned earlier, but I can't do this alone. It's a time that we need to help and support so we can be making things happen. And I need people to come alongside and to pray diligently, not just every once in a while, but every day, mentioning to touch the hearts and open the hearts of people in the 1040 window and in India to know about Jesus. But I also need financial support to make this happen. We don't have really any staff, Marlis volunteers, and since I'm going full-time, I'm only the one that takes a little bit, so I can at least have a little food here or there. And, it's a big job. And so I talk to churches, but I also want to give individuals the opportunity. A lot of times we think, okay, that's great. I'm sure the church is helping, and they do. But individually, you can do more than you ever imagined. I typically talk about $100 a month, virtually $3 a day. Could you spare $3 a day? You might have to miss a Tim Hortons souped-up coffee. The black coffee, you're okay. You still can get it under $3. But now, if you go to Starbucks, that's a coffee. It's a little higher price there. But $3 a day roughly is $100 a month. And if that's a little bit taxing, because I know times are tight, I realize that, maybe you could do $2 a month at $60. $2 a day at $60 a month. $2 a day. Not too bad. And then finally, if that's kind of like, that's close, but could you do $1 a day? That is $30 a month. And you'll say, well, what's $1 a day do? What's $30 a month do? Well, we can feed and take care of an orphan. We can help pay part of the Bible college students' tuition. We can do all sorts of things with it. And if you hit the lottery, we're open to big checks too. If you want to do 1,000, go ahead and write that. Just in case you want to, I don't want to hold you back, okay? But there's opportunities for all of us to partner and to work in this wonderful, wonderful work of the Lord. It's vital. There's nothing more important. Questions that you might have. There's one thing I will ask, though, because maybe timing's not good now. You never know. On our table, we have cards. And you can fill the card out now on the front and the back and say, hey, I'll do $30 a month or $60 or $100 or whatever it is. And you can turn that in. You can go to our website and sign up, electronically through a check draft or credit card. But if you would fill out the front of the card at least and let us know that you're interested and to put you on the mailing list and keep you informed, because, at some point the Lord may lay it on your heart to say, hey, I'd really like you to help this work, okay? And so we have a table out there. You can see pictures. Marlis will be out there. You can ask questions all you want. But the main thing is we need your help. We can't do it without you. I find it interesting throughout the entire Bible, the Lord, it's very rare that He just snapped His fingers. He got Moses to lead the children out of Israel. He got Noah to build him an ark, He got the angels to come in and get Lot out of the city before he burns it down. Instead of just going out Himself as the Son of God, He got 12 apostles to go with Him. He sent out 72 at one time. He always wants to partner with His people. He wants it to be a partnership. Because there's nothing better than feeling good thinking, you know what? I was part of that. I helped with that. I was telling some guys earlier, I said, I love growing on a road that's been under construction with a brand new bridge and there's a sign that says your tax dollars at work. Usually I think to myself, well, finally, you're using it for something. But it makes me feel good to think, hey, I'm giving money and I'm getting a new bridge and we got a new highway and this is good. It's the same way with the work of the Lord. Hey, you've saved a soul. Every baptism you see is because of what you did. Every baptism, every preacher, everything that happens is because you had a love and an impact for them. And so be sure and check us on there, get filled out, sign up to donate on a monthly basis, get on our mailing list. As always, we had a beautiful thing this morning. We had a baptism, which is exciting, and we never want to leave without that invitation. If you're thinking, I'm kind of thinking it over, or wondering about being baptized, don't wait. Don't put it off. Make it happen today. We were. It's so important and it's vital. And if you're needing prayers, that's another thing we don't do enough of. Prayer is the greatest tool we have, and we don't use it enough. But to pray for each other and strengthen each other, and look for opportunities and help us grow. So if you need prayers with the church, please don't hesitate to do that as we come and we sing our invitation song.